couple of people asked, how do you sequence the scoring checks, and how do you ask the user what scores they want to bank? How do you deal with all of that? A lot of people ask about how you remove dice and re-roll the dice, but that's going to be in a different video, so go to a different video for that one. So what we talked about in a previous video is you can do each score check in its own method. So you can detect, did we roll a single 4? Did we roll a single 2? Did we roll a straight? And an easy data structure to use for all of these is a counts array that will tell you how many of each value got rolled. And in order to generate the counts array, we need to know what the actual die values are. And we have a method that will roll a certain number of dice and return the die values. So this is a nice decomposition where you can say, let's roll 6 dice. Now let's figure out what all the different counts are for the different dice values. And now let's use those counts to do all the checks. Okay, well, let's say it's got a single 4. Well, there's several ways to approach this. You could try and display all of the possible scores all at once to the user and then have sort of a menu system. Do you want to score this one or that one? That seems a little bit harder to do. I don't see anything wrong with checking for the scores one at a time. Okay, I got interrupted and I forgot how I started my sentence. But what I was saying is I don't think there's anything wrong with checking for the different scoring possibilities one at a time, and then to have a print statement that said something like, you can get 10 points because you had a single 4. Do you want to bank these, yes or no? So you could do something like, you've got a 4, like a single 4 worth 10 points. And then you ask the question, do you want it? How do you actually do the user input? That's a separate thing. I guess I'll tell you right now. So way up here in main, you can create, there's multiple methods, but you could have a scanner object. So this is the data type is scanner. The variable name is keyboard, just like you could have like int n is data type variable name. A scanner is a special built-in object that will read keyboard input. So you create it the same way you create any object by running the keyword new and then the constructor. And you have to tell the scanner what's it going to be reading from, because scanners can read from files also. So system.in is the way that you tell it you want to be reading from the keyboard. Once you've created your scanner object, the way you ask the scanner to actually read from the keyboard is by using a method called .next. So you can print type something, and then whatever they type is going to get returned from keyboard.next. So it's usually nice to have like a colon and then whatever they type, like I said, or rather execution will pause right here because it's going to wait for them to type something and hit enter. And as soon as they hit enter, whatever they typed is going to get returned and stored inside response as a string. It's a little bit wasteful to create new scanner objects over and over and over again. So we don't want to actually use the scanner object until we get like way down into here. But this is inside the play turn method. So you have a couple of options. One thing you could do is create the scanner object right at the top of the method where you need it, and then it's available. This is a little bit wasteful because each new turn you recreate the keyboard scanner, and that seems unnecessary. Why can't we just do it once at the very beginning and then use it forever after that? So you could also do that. You could create it once at the very beginning, and then whenever you run play turn, you pass it the scanner as an input. And so even though you created it up at the top, you hand player turn that scanner object, and now it's available for use. A different thing that you could do is you could make it globally available. Globally just means everywhere in your whole file. And to do that, you would mark it as static out here. But then it can only be used by methods that are static. All of your methods are going to be static, though. We're going to talk more about what static means later. But here, you'll notice that I can just use keyboard, and it's available in this method, even though I declared it way, way, way at the top of the program. So that's how you can make the keyboard available. And so now I could type something like, do you want to bank them? Yes, no. I get the response. And then you check if response equals yes. If you don't remember from the summer homework, for strings, you have to compare them using dot equals. You can't compare them using a double equals like this. And the reason it was complaining is because single quotes are not the right type of quotes. Okay, so if they said yes, that means we want to bank them. And this is where the next video is going to fill in, because we don't know how to think about removing the dice. But at the very least, what we could do is add to the turn score. Okay, is it that simple for all of them? Well, single 2 and single 4, you can just say you've got a single 4. What about 3 of a kind? Has 3 of a kind. So there are two problems here. If we've detected that they have a 3 of a kind, the score depends on what actual die value they had 3 of a kind for. And the has 3 of a kind method just returns true or false. So that doesn't help. So one option is just write another method that gives you the thing you want. So you could say val equals value of 3 of a kind. And it will return, wherever, like whatever value it found that 3 of a kind for. And that would work. There might be a little bit of duplicated code. A different thing you could do is, instead of saying has 3 of a kind, let's actually make the method return the value for 3 of a kind. But if there is no 3 of a kind, it'll return -1. So now we can say, if the 3 of a kind value is greater than 0, we know there was a 3 of a kind. If the 3 of a kind value isn't greater than 0, it must be because we returned -1 on purpose as a way of signaling that there wasn't a 3 of a kind. So that would be another approach for that one. It might have occurred to you that there's still one more problem that we're not dealing with here, though. It is possible to have 2 different 3 of a kinds. So how can you deal with that? One thing you could do is detect one 3 of a kind. Well, I guess that doesn't work. Well, let me think of a different way. So a different way would be, instead of just saying, is there a 3 of a kind, yes or no, you could have it return how many 3 of a kinds are there. Or let's do this, 3 of a kind values. So the idea is going to be this. It's going to be an array list of integer. And what it's going to do is, if there's only one 3 of a kind, it's going to return an array list that just has one value for, like, what was the 3 of a kind. So if I have 3 4s, it's just going to return an array list with 4. If there are 3 1s, it's going to just return an array list with 1. If there are 2 different 3 of a kinds, then it will return an array list whose length is 2, and it will have the corresponding values. So like I have 3 1s and I have 3 5s. That's telling you all the information you might need to know on the other side here. So I can say if 3 of a kind values well, let's do this. So I could say array list integer 3 of a kind values equals get 3 of, what did I call it? I called it 3 of a kind values. So then here's what I know. If there were no 3 of a kinds, I would give an empty array list. So now I can say if 3 of a kind values dot length, or dot size rather, is bigger than 0. So if there are any 3 of a kinds, now I know I have some. And then you can also check what they are, and you also know how many there are. So I guess my point is, think about the information you need, and then write a method that returns that information. We need to know how many 3 of a kinds there were. The length of the list tells us that. We need to know what was the value of each 3 of a kind. That's what the numbers in the list tell us. And so if we have that information, now we can use if statements to check it and to do the right thing.